Hi, Steve.
Hey, Don, it would be helpful if you sent out the meeting ID and password every time.
Oh, okay. It's in the, I normally do. I didn't this time because I was short on time. It is in the calendar link.
Yeah, I know. That's how I found it. Why I'm here. I found it there.
Okay. Yeah. To me, that's the best way to send it out because then folks have it unless they didn't get into their calendars.
If they remember that it's there, yeah. So I've got my background
Yeah.
tonight.
Oh, there you go.
Last night I was getting ready to teach a beginning beekeeping class, sitting here in the dining room, facing towards my hives, and black bear walked along the edge of the hives, along the bear fence, went around the corner, sniffed the wire, and ran off into the woods. So I think,
Oh, good, it worked.
I think the electric fence worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. How many bears do you usually have out there?
I usually just see one, on the game camera, a couple times a year. This picture was, what was the date on that? September 20.
Okay, 21.
September 20th, 21.
Great picture.
Yeah, that's game camera is just, I got a picture of a bobcat and standing in the same place, and I've got pictures of a cougar standing in the same place, and lots of pictures of deer and coyotes there too. So it's a good spot for a game camera.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go into the email that I sent and send the link out just in case anybody's having trouble.
Yeah, I sent a question to everybody saying, what is the link ID and password? So
okay. Yeah. Yeah. I always figure to put it in the calendar and then it's at everybody's fingertips.
Yeah, well,
it's such a gorgeous day that I was kind of wondering how many people we were going to get showing up today, right? It's such a beautiful evening that do I want to go inside and look at Zoom, or do I want to go have a barbecue and a beer, right?
Yeah.
So we'll give it just a couple more minutes. I'll send it out just in case folks are having trouble.
Yeah, we are 2 minutes into the meeting, and it's you, me, Eli, and John. And it's
hey, John. Yeah, I know that Ruthie can't make it because she's at her cabin where they're having massive thunderstorms, and she doesn't like to go out turn on her internet when they're having those thunderstorms.
Yeah, right. Yeah, can't blame her there.
So Don, it didn't show up in my calendar either, so I'm not sure.
Oh.
It's not in your calendar invite?
No, I'm not. Maybe I'm not doing that right.
When you get the invite, you need to download it to your calendar. You need to accept it, I think.
Well, I didn't get. I didn't get the invite.
Okay. Well, and what I usually do is I send out an agenda that has the link on it. So that's what I've always done before. And this has just been a crazy, crazy month, and so I didn't get quite that far into it this month. So there we go. Sent items. So let's see here. That means we get to decide what's important. Because that's what we're doing tonight, to kind of prioritizing things. Let's see here. Here we go. Here's the reminder. So I will send it out. Let me grab the link off of Zoom really quick.
John's face just changed.
Hey, hi, John.
How are we doing? You'd probably rather see my avatar anyway.
Come on.
I didn't show up here.
The problem with the game camera pictures is that what I'm taking a picture of is always in the center of the picture, right behind my head. They don't work well for background.
Oh, there's the bobcat.
Yeah. The bobcat. Turn the computer a little bit so I'm not in the center. I was looking to see if I had a cougar picture here on this computer. I thought I did, but.
So where are you at, Steve?
Arlington area, Angel of the Winds exit. Everybody knows where the Angel of the Winds is for some reason.
Not us here on the west side. I have no idea.
Oh, I'm on the west side. I'm in Arlington, so
I mean east
side. Oh yeah, okay.
We're on the east side, Spokane.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's our local casino, the Stillaguamish tribe. Yeah, so I'm basically just north of the Stillaguamish River, so just off I-5.
County is that?
Here we go.
That's Snohomish County.
Snohomish.
Yeah.
Well, bear with me. We'll give it up there. Give it one more minute while I'm trying to send out the meeting link. Sorry about the side of my head here. I've been out in the bees all day, so everything's kind of a sweaty, salty mess, right?
Yeah, I was out working. I decided I better take a shower after that, so I just took a quick shower. But yeah, I was out in bees today. I actually got a small swarm today.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I have the swarmiest hive that I have ever had. It's just, oh my gosh, I've never had to deal with one quite this swarmy. I've done two. Anyway, I finally just put the queen. Have you ever seen those isolation cages for queens where it's basically a queen excluder that goes around the entire frame?
I haven't seen those.
I put the queen in that, which I gave her an empty drawn frame, and I put her in that, and I said, that's it, you guys aren't swarming without the queen. Because I buy these brand new queens and I put them in there and split them out and put a new queen in there, and they take off with my new queen, and there's no eggs or anything. So it's like, oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah. Well, I'm struggling to find the way my email is coming up for some reason. I'm struggling to find where I sent it out to everyone because I want to try and send the link, and my emails.
Oh, I cut and pasted, but it didn't highlight properly. But I did a reply to everyone. After Steve asked, I asked, and then Steve asked, and I went, oh, I bet I go back to the May announcement. It's a recurring news meeting.
Yeah, that's how I got to it.
Yeah, and it's the same one that it was last time too. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't change. It's in, yeah.
Okay.
But I did not get it into the agenda.
So most people do use Google Calendar, huh?
This is Outlook calendar.
Outlook. Oh, I can't get Outlook without paying. Darn it.
I somehow got it into my Google Calendar, so I was able to find it.
Yeah,
there.
I think
it just goes right in, I think.
Okay. I sent it out to everybody. Okay, good.
If anybody else is interested, like you said, on this beautiful sunny day.
I know, it's a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just, I think the four of us can kind of get through some of this, and then we can confirm it with folks next month. But I think what I would like to do is I've got a poll. There's only the four of us. I probably don't even need to do the actual poll, which is unfortunate. I learned how to do Zoom polls, which would be kind of cool. But what I want to do is look at this list of things that we came up with. I came up with a beginning list last month, and then folks added on to it. And what I'd like to do is come up with what's our next area that we're going to tackle. I'm still nibbling away at insurance. It has not been very fruitful yet, but I'm still trying. I gave up on the original company, and I'm now going through a broker to see if they can find someone to come talk to us about risk. But what I was going to ask folks to do, and we could do the poll if you want to, maybe I'll launch the poll and we can do that. In fact, but first I want to talk a little bit about what the things we talked about possibly doing are. Then we want to prioritize what order we think are the most important to the clubs. Where, and it's specifically, the question is, what would make running a bee club easier? What are the things that are giving you pain? That if you could learn from other beekeepers how to do it a little better, or if we could bring someone in to learn how to do it a little better. So that's kind of what our goal here is. How can we make beekeeping easy, or managing clubs easier for presidents, prioritized on this list? So the first thing is education. That's our main mission, is to educate people, right? We're all nonprofit educators. And so what activities do we do? Do we have advanced education like queen rearing? We would talk about the list of speakers. Everyone would contribute the speakers that they have, and maybe I'd create a template and you could just put your speakers in there, who it is, how much they cost, what their topics are, that kind of thing. And then education sources, if you want to put things out there in newsletters or websites. So that's education. Then the next one is, or is there anything else before I go on to the next one? Can you guys think of anything else on education?
Well, on the speakers list, we have a WASBA speakers list. And the problem is it's dominated by people who get paid to speak. It's part of their job, or they're promoting a business. And the thing that I don't know how to get.
Yeah, and we're not doing that. We would compile a list from all of the
members.
Presidents. Yes, members.
Club members.
And it would say how much do they charge, and then you can choose free speakers, right? So that would be a better resource, I think. The WASBA list. Anyway, so then anything else on education?
Education kind of goes into some of the retention and such topics, like retaining experienced people, like the queen rearing mentioned on there, and
No, that's not, that's, yeah, but that's, there's a whole nother area in recruitment and retention, but you're right, that would mesh with retention. I agree. Yeah.
Even I'm looking at the agenda sent out summary.
Right.
Yeah.
Summary.
Right. There's a subject called education, and then there's website technology, security, then there's member retention. Those are separate categories, but I think that there is some overlap. So then website technology and security, I don't know how much pain that's giving presidents. We had one of our board members in Puget Sound never created a unique password for her account, for her board account, and she got, maybe it wasn't, maybe she personally got hacked and it caused trouble for our group emails. Fortunately, we have a techie person who might be able to talk to us. We have a techie person who is able to figure out, how to set us up for what's it called, dual something authentication. So is that something that club presidents are worried about? And then there's websites, what platform are you using? How happy with it are you? Do you have design tips? And this might be something, I have it on here because I do the newsletter. I do the newsletter and I recruit the speakers. So to me, but also the websites are really important. And if you have a Facebook group, it's a really important way to communicate and to educate our members. So it is one of the primary ways that we communicate. So I think the better we can make our websites and our blog or Facebook posts, the better education we're sending out. And also if you're running hybrid meetings, I know hybrid meetings are still causing pain for some clubs. And so it'd be interesting to hear how folks are doing with those. Then member recruitment and retention. How do most of your members show up, and what activities have you found that really keep them engaged? What have you really gotten great responses for? And the members that you have that have been there for a while, why are they still there? And how can we encourage that amongst our new members? And then fundraising. Do you do fundraising activities? Do you sell honey? Do you have auctions? Do you, do car washes? What kind of fundraisers do you do? Because I know for almost all of our groups, funds are always really tight. And if we had more funds, we would be able to do more activities with our group. We'd be able to afford the supplies or the speakers or whatever. So it would be interesting to hear about folks fundraising, how much effort it is for the payoff, and if somebody has something that really works. Treasury management. Do you have a reserve? Has your board talked about that? Are you comfortable with your treasurer? Do you have a backup plan for your treasurer? Because what I found, and Steve will probably, is that treasurers tend to be the longest standing role in the clubs. Once treasurers are in, they like never let them go, right? And so that being said, it's such an important position, and it does take a specific skill set. Do you have a plan for how to transition if your treasurer suddenly says, I'm done? So that could be a good topic.
And that's something that's very important, to make sure that you have multiple names on that checking account, so that if your treasurer does find the wrong end of a truck on the freeway, you have some way to get at the money.
Yeah.
And that's something we did at WASBA, to make sure that I've got some backup at WASBA in case I.
But also you can go in I think that pretty much any board or executive board member can go in with the minutes showing where they were elected, and the bank will give them access, because I've had to do that before.
You need to talk to Ellen about how much fun it was to get her name on the WASBA account. It was a lot of work.
Was it? Okay.
Yes, it was months and months. But that's Washington State Employees Credit Union. They may be a little bit more careful than other banks and credit unions too.
Yeah. And that's another good question, is what bank do you use? I mean, we're using, I can't remember, something like People's Bank in one place, and boy, they're just terrible. Downloading spreadsheets and downloading information they're just.
I personally have given up with banks and gone to credit unions. So Stanwood Camino, when I took over as treasurer there, we had just moved to a bank, and they eventually decided Stanwood was too small of a town and left town. So I went to Northwest Plus Credit Union, and I liked it so much I've actually got my personal account in there now.
Oh, there you go. Good customer service.
But credit unions are, they're a little different than banks. They seem to be a little bit friendly to their customers.
Yep, more customer service. Yeah. And then the next one is apiary management. Do you have an apiary? Do you want an apiary? I know there are some people who are really curious on, if you don't have an apiary, how much does it cost to have one, and what's the process to set one up? And if you do have an apiary, what are your best practices? Do you have people sign waivers? Do you have sanitation issues where they're not allowed to bring their own hive tools in? And what kind of education programs you do in the apiary? Because if you do have an apiary, it's such an incredible resource. It's a laboratory of mentoring, like what beekeepers used to have, that we don't have access to anymore. So it would be fun to talk about apiaries. And do you sell products out of the apiary? And the last one is like the most fun and interesting is legal and government, right? Governance. What kind of waivers and rules does your club have to prevent liability? So that's like out in apiaries and things. Are your bylaws up to date? When was the last time you had them reviewed? Things like that, just governance. How do you go about, do you feel comfortable with how you're electing your board? Do you have a procedures list? So every time a club votes on something, it doesn't go into the bylaws, it should go into a procedures listing. And that way we remember what we voted on, because even a few months later, much less a few years later, it's really hard to remember. So that's called a policies and procedures list that eventually, I think in both the clubs I'm in, we're having to send people going back mining the minutes to pull all of those out. It's really easy to maintain going forward, and naturally it falls with the secretary. But those are just really good practices. So if it's okay with you guys, I am going to try out this poll on you guys, and we'll just kind of prioritize what we think is most important for our club, and also for kind of all clubs in general. So just kind of with a lens of primarily what's important to you, but also everyone. Let's go ahead and prioritize these. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of go through and unpack whatever number one is, and we'll start working on it to kind of flesh out a plan. Okay, so can you see the poll?
Yes.
So each one, you would just rank it, and you can scroll down to them all, and you would just, if you like member retention is number one, you would click on the number one there. And I don't think I can do the poll, so I'm hoping you can. It shows up for me, but I try clicking on it and it doesn't click. Is yours clicking?
Mhm.
Oh, good. Okay, awesome. I just don't get to vote. And just let me know when you're done. And I'll in the poll and we can see what we think.
I have submitted.
Okay. Another one that would be good in here is there's been times when clubs have come to WASBA saying, we have this personality in the club and it's just disrupting the entire board, right? And we're actually dealing with that in one of the clubs right now. And WASBA is a great resource for that. And I think the president's group would be a great resource for that too.
Yeah.
Saying, let's talk it out and come up with ideas. So yeah. Oh, good. Let's see, 2 of 3. So one more person. Are you still working on it, Eli?
I think I just submitted.
Oh, good. Okay. So
There's like 2 or 3 I really care about, and the rest are kind of so I had to.
Yeah, that's
I know, right? That's what it usually is. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully it's all the same ones. Let's see, share results.
Oh, look at this. No.
See, I don't see the same thing you guys are seeing. I can't see the results. Oh, maybe some questions. Well,
Let's see what.
Well,
3.
it looks.
I think what I'm seeing is different than what you're seeing. Oh, so everybody's most important one is member retention. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Yay.
More important,
That's exciting.
volunteer retention.
100% liked it. Yes.
Okay. Oh, I love that. Yay. I just love that we all came up with that as the first thing. That is thrilling because it makes it so much easier. And if we're kind of unanimous on that, then we know that the rest of the folks will too. So I'm going to write these down and then we'll unpack it a little bit and maybe come up with an outline of what does that mean and add into what all of that means. And then we can think of ways to come up with resources. So okay, so number 1 is member retention. Number 2 looks like it's website. Number 3 is education.
Okay, I'm not seeing what everyone else is seeing then.
Well, you basically have to scroll up and down and figure out which lines are longest.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
The first one. Oh, that's funny because I get it now. Okay, I'm just slow.
No, I didn't know if you guys were looking at the same thing.
I was trying to figure out what she was doing and it finally dawned on me.
I get it.
Yeah. It would be nice if they could graph it differently so that you can see the 7 choices, what are the scores of all of them, but
and 4 is split. Everybody had a different 4, but 2 out of 3 liked treasury. So we'll go with treasury for number 5. Well, let's just do the top 3 because that was pretty clear. So we've got first is membership retention, and then next is website technology. And then the last one is education. I actually would have put education first, but member retention it is one of those ones that's kind of overlaps. So let's talk about member retention. So I only had 2 things on this, but it is so much a bigger topic. How do most members come to your club? And what kind of activities do we do to keep people engaged? What else can we add? Are you thinking when you think of retention?
That's kind of it, is how do you get them to come and how do you keep them engaged? And, certainly education, offering classes, you get members that way. Advertising, we used to have, and we probably I need to talk to my current secretary. We used to put an ad in the local, it's called the Crab Cracker. It's just a little thing that you find at a lot of restaurants at tables and stuff like that. And there's something to read when you're sitting waiting for your food. We advertised in that. We have also, tried to do local fairs and things. Art and I were just talking today about, are we going to do the Stanwood Fair? Or are we going to do the Sylvana Fair? We've done them in the past, and that kind of all went away with COVID. And that's, also when our members kind of went away with COVID.
Yeah,
I know most of them. I just hope most of them are still alive, but
well, a lot of the old beekeepers are. So there's, as far as like an outline, so we're thinking in outline and kind of subgroups, and then we'll within that. So we've got recruitment and retention.
Retention is a question. How do you retain people? That is a good question. You have to make the meetings interesting, I guess.
Well, yeah, and for us, I mean, part of me feels really guilty here. We're such a large club and we're so self-contained on some of these items. I tend not to say a lot. I'm just trying to learn what other people's issues are. We are super fortunate that we are connected with the county extension here, and through the county extension, we contract an apprentice class every spring. We don't use WASBA's. We used a different curricula.
Well, who do you use?
Master Beekeepers.
That other organization.
Yeah, the other one.
The other organization.
They're folding. Yeah, they're getting ready to fold. So we're kind of up
they had
against
some issues. I think they got them worked out, but that's
okay.
not for here.
Okay.
So we get an influx then of about 100 new members from that class every year. And then we also have a second year class. And after that second year class, so you lose 50 to 60%, between 50 and 60% per year drop off after that first year because they're not interested anymore in beekeeping. So then we take that 35, and by the time we get to year 5, we're down to maybe 6 or 7, so it's for us, it would be keeping those people engaged after year 2.
Yes.
So, the intermediate beekeeper that's really not going for their journeyman or master or anything like that, just a hobbyist but how do we make our club interesting to them?
And it might be that they lose interest in bees because they have lost the colonies too many times, and they decide that it's just not worth it to them to spend time and money on beekeeping. So I think
a variety of things.
I think one of the things to do is to make sure that everybody learns somewhere how to keep bees alive in your area. And the biggest thing, I can say the biggest thing is Varroa. Last winter, I lost more hives than I've ever lost because the weather turned and I couldn't get the treatments in, and I lost 4 hives. And it was all Varroa.
Yeah. And for new people, that would be devastating. For us who've lost bees before, we know, well, you just pick up and keep going, and it builds up next year. Right?
Yeah, it was interesting to see. What happened there is just trying to diagnose, well, why did they die, and why did the 2 that lived live?
So then we've got, so we can ask folks, why do you think members come in? Why do they join? and why do we think they leave? So at least we kind of understand what's bringing folks in and when we're losing them. And also, what else besides beekeeping do we provide? What kind of community engagement, mentorship, ways that we can help connect people to stay? Because if they are only there to learn how to keep bees, then those are probably the ones who are most likely to drop out after a couple of years. Either they've given up or their bees died. But if we can create more connection somehow through folks, and to me, it kind of really feels like the mentoring. If you've got a really strong mentoring program, then you're building connections within the club between people and not just book learning, right?
So, John, how is it in a big club? Do you have a lot of people mentoring?
We have a mentors list, a group that mentors. So probably, I'm guessing without looking at it at the moment, we probably have 11 or 12 people on that is available to all the members, and they can call up their mentor. We encourage, especially, first and second year people to really connect with a mentor. And then at all of the meetings, we have a social hour before the meeting. And our mentor class wears name tags so that anybody coming to the meeting can feel free to walk up to those people, introduce themselves, and say what maybe talk about their concerns. We also have a strong Facebook presence that we do a lot of mentoring on the Facebook too. So
lots of good ideas.
That's what we try to do.
Yeah.
For mentoring, yeah.
Would you be willing, if folks are interested in developing mentoring programs as a retention tool, would you be willing to kind of outline what your club does to help with that?
Sure.
You don't have to. You don't have to talk and describe it. If you want, we can meet, or we can. And what I'm thinking is, there's probably a couple of clubs that have mentoring programs, and if we can kind of pull together what everyone is doing for mentoring, I think we might be able to come up with a template that is, because I would love to roll something like that out in Puget Sound. It's kind of tough in the big city because everybody's so busy and it takes an hour to go 3 miles, right? Literally. And so, but there's other ways to mentor through talking and text pictures and things. So I would love to hear about that. And David Ledger does a pretty good mentoring program too. So we wouldn't just be taking yours and putting you on the spot. It would be a combined effort.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to outline that. Really, it's fairly simple. We have, like I said, maybe a dozen of our more experienced beekeepers. It's the mentor program, quote unquote, list is managed by one person that's been there for a long time, one of our ex-presidents, and he contacts them, make sure that they agreed to be on it every year. And then we have a list of things that the person that's requesting mentorship present to their mentor. Like, I'm not looking at the list, but it's how what kind of equipment do you use? Frames of bees, frames of brood, frames of eggs, queen right, knowing all those things before they call in with call with a question.
Yeah.
And that really, once you establish that list of questions, it gives you a basis that then you can look at pictures. If you're not able to go to the site, you can look at pictures and get a pretty good idea of what's going on. So I would imagine even in a smaller club, if you had 3 or 4 people that were able to do that, and one person to make sure that they're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So Eli, I don't know how big your club is. I know you just got started a couple of years ago, and you seem to be doing a lot of education. Are you do you have other people doing mentoring and stuff, or is it all just Eli?
That's the hardest thing. The hive sites help. Actually, having a club apiary sites that we actually meet at, even though people aren't utilizing that as much as you would think they would. The Facebook discussion group, that's going, but on that one, as an education tool, I really hesitate to say there's only one right way. And a lot of clubs would not be comfortable with allowing the free exchange of ideas that I do. Yeah. I mean, somebody just posted something and I just said, but If it's not absolutely wrong, I feel like if I get too, it has to be my way or the highway. And that happens in B clubs and splits B clubs up all the time.
Yeah.
And they lose
Yeah.
members because of it. So, John, your mentoring group sounds like the most successful I've ever heard of. Period.
Well, and on the subject of Facebook, we do lock ours down pretty tight as far as for what we allow. But we also, with just this year, another system that we're trying is on our Facebook page. Then we have people we have an expert badge on Facebook. So you can have this person is an expert. So anybody can, you throw a question on Facebook, anybody can answer it. But we encourage our members to look for the answers from our experts, that even though we all have, as beekeepers, we all have our own way of keeping bees, right? My way is going to differ from my vice president's in some considerable ways. But as a club, when we teach our curriculum, we don't really vary from that. So if we're giving answers, we're giving answers that stay within the parameters of our curriculum. So on our Facebook page kind of reflects that. So we don't allow, in fact, we had a meeting last night, and somebody was mentioning the Bonner County beekeepers Facebook page and some things that were on there. It's like, that wouldn't last 10 seconds on ours. We're just, not going to have bad information.
John, where are you located?
We're in Spokane, Washington.
You're in Spokane. Oh, okay, over there.
Yeah. And Bonner
The
County.
other thing we should do is we should share each other's Facebook page names so that we can all join each other's Facebooks and get some good links and ideas there, right? It's kind of mentoring for us, right?
Mhm.
Mentoring for the mentors.
Actually, last month after a meeting, I went out to look for our Facebook page because I know we had one and it was gone. So I created a new one. And then I haven't looked at it since because I've been busy doing other things and haven't gone back to look at it since. But the other thing we definitely, as presidents, we probably all should have a link on our desktops for all the other websites for all the other clubs, so that we once in a while go through and see what they have on their website. What are they doing? What are they talking about? What ideas can I steal from another club?
Website management is my second biggest problem.
Yeah. Is that what we have here? That is what we have here is number 2. Yep.
I want to understand for sure. It sounds to me like we have two completely different things. What are the resources? Like asking everybody who comes to this meeting, even occasionally, to fill out an entire questionnaire. I mean, for example, list your website, and there has to be a choice, not comfortable. Like the treasury management questions you might choose not to answer, and that should be okay. But it sounds like you can get a lot of the information we need. Like, do you have a mentoring program? And I'd love to hear John's questions, that the stuff that the person should know before they ever ask a question. They should be able to say, and they call you. If they want remote help, they should have looked in their hives, know this, and this, what size boxes they've got. I tell people in beginner, the purpose of beginner is not really to teach you anything. It's to teach you how to ask the question. If you don't know how to name the equipment, you don't know what a frame of honey is, you don't know what a frame of bees is, we are not going to communicate ever. We're not going to get anywhere. Grab your cell phone next, and that's the second thing. So that would be a really good, I think we need a questionnaire. Do you want help writing that, Dawn? It has to be super simple. And can we do it like a monkey? Is there my monkey survey or somebody let us do that? Or do it on each topic as it comes up and really kind of ding people a second time? Could you really please fill this out, even if you say, I choose not to answer, which is an acceptable thing, like the poll you just said. Okay, and we could do it.
I'm thinking that people will be interested to answer, because it's not like we're taking the information and using it. We're providing information through the poll. So this is something that there's a direct benefit. So I don't think we'll get too much pushback on it. And so, so mentoring is one piece of it. And so So we should, so what you're suggesting is that we create a list, I'm sorry, a questionnaire.
A questionnaire soliciting information on what do you have available? Or do you have somebody who would talk on the web problem? You know, would your person who manages your website be willing to talk for 5 minutes or send something in even? That sort of thing.
Or maybe what we do is we've got a couple of clubs that I know have really good mentoring programs. John's got one, David's got one. I'm sure there's a couple of more. What if we asked some of the members to come in, the mentors to come in for to join the meeting and talk about, this is my experience of how we run this mentoring program, and this is our best practices. And then we'd hear from 2 or 3 or 4 different people what they do. And from that, we might get a really well-rounded picture of what a good program looks like. Or those are experts.
We may not be looking for a good program. We may be looking for the options. Okay, phone stewards. And I know Future Sound did something like that. Okay, we may be looking for that. I mean, Master Gardeners does the send me the cell phone picture and all, the big picture, the close-up picture of whatever it is you want us to answer the question on. So you show the garden, you show the plant, you show the pest and the damage. Okay, and then you send that in. And like John was saying, there's a set of questions. Do you know what you're asking before we try to talk to you? And that, okay, that's one way of mentoring. Then there's the actual person comes out to your hive. That's what people really want. And that's time intensive. At what point do you offer to do that? You know, and that's the sort of thing where people could tell us what they have decided they will accept as what the mentor should do, what the mentee should do, and what they're aiming for. And there are clubs that promise mentoring programs and they'll tell you they have one and they don't. It doesn't exist. Sorry.
Well, they do, but it's not working. It's there. There's people who say, yeah, I'm mentor, but nobody ever asks them a question. So let me say one more thing on mentoring, and then I want to check and make sure that we're not missing any other areas. I don't want to spend all of our time on this. What we're going to do is we're just going to try and flesh out every possible thing that could be in recruitment and retention. But on the mentoring, so I think what I would like to do is similar to what we did with the accountants. So what we did is we went to the club and we'd say, what are your questions? If you were going to, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Sorry, my thing just flipped out. If you were going to have some people come and talk to you about mentoring, what are the things that you would like to know? How do you, like for me, it's how do you get people to engaged enough to ask questions? And then I like John, how do you filter those questions and put criteria on the questions before they go to the mentor? So do you think that would work? Is if we ask the greater group, what would you like to hear from the experts? And then we will mine our club for some mentoring experts.
If I could really get the questions answered, you know, because like on the one with the accounting, it was very nice, but there were a couple of questions that I really wanted the answers to and didn't get them. I mean, I wrote them out and I thought it made sense. Maybe there really wasn't a good answer to those. So on mentoring again, if I write the question out and don't get the answer.
Yeah.
So Don, I'm just curious, what would that look like? We would do that like at the president's meeting, and we would have, like, for instance, my head of the mentor program that we have would come and join. You know, would join this meeting, or would it be a separate meeting?
No, it would be probably, this is June, it would probably be July or August meeting. That we would, and in the meantime, we'll be fleshing out other ideas. But we would have ideally 4 people who could be like our panel, our expert panel on mentoring programs. And maybe even if we find someone in Master Gardener that knows how to run a mentoring program, although beekeeping is a little different, but we would compile a list of potential questions and talking points that our group would say, how do how do you encourage people to ask questions when no one's asking questions of the mentors, which is what the problem at Puget Sound. We have a lot of mentors, and nobody asks the questions. How do you advertise and how do you connect and get people pulled forward asking those questions? So if we send a list of questions like that to the panel ahead of time, just so they kind of understand where we're going with that. And of course, they're free to add other things in their experience, just maybe open-ended questions. What do you feel like are the top 3 things and the best practices that you do? And just have them talk, and we would also dialogue. And I think from that, I feel like we would really get some good ideas on how to build a really good mentoring program and how to engage folks in it.
Yeah.
Would that be useful?
The engagement side is something I've never even considered as an issue. So that's an interesting thing for me to think about, because we just have the engagement is already there.
Yeah, it's already there. It's the mentors who are missing.
Yeah, and we're not lacking that either. But yeah, getting people to ask the right questions of their mentors is the biggest issue that we had to come up with. And once we did that, and we just kind of said, don't call your mentor unless you have the answer to these questions. And then they can talk to their mentor intelligently and get good answers. So if somebody calls up and says, I think my queen's dead, what do you think?
Show me a picture of her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I don't, yeah,
Or
my
have
queen,
queen cells. Well.
yeah, that's probably one of the biggest we got. I don't think I have a queen. What do you think? And it's like, okay, you have to go through all these things over and over and over. So, or my hive's a mess. Can you come look at it? It's like, no, call me again when you know these things and we'll talk. Send me some pictures on the cell phone's an awesome thing. So once they answer, and I brought it up, so what we have them answer is frames of bees, frames of brood, amount of honey and pollen, and what equipment they're using. And once you get, and that seems so basic, it's like everybody should know that before they call the mentor. But it's amazing the number of people that want to call you that don't have that basic information at hand, right? And then when they don't, then that frustrates both the mentor and the mentee, because neither one of them are able to make that connection. But if you start with those basic questions and stick to it, then there's a basis for communication and you can start down the right path.
I think it's a little different with a beginning beekeeper, though, because they don't, that when they've got their first hive and they can't find the queen, they didn't add extra wax to the foundation and they're getting a bunch of wonky comb in there. They don't even know what the questions are, and you need to come, go out and hold their hand. Or I tell people I try to stand with my hands in my pockets. I try not to physically do the things. I was out yesterday to a couple, and I did have to actually hold each frame and look at it carefully to be able to point out the queens, because they weren't spotting them. And that's something that takes, almost have to have a mentor show you how to, what does she look like, so you can see how different she is from the drones and the workers. And it's not something that you're gonna get on somebody's Facebook thing, or even on a YouTube video necessarily. Might find somebody that has a good way to spot them, but it's really hands-on. Somebody has to show you where the queen is.
And there again, this is part of why I'm pretty quiet most of the time. When I was saying our education program, we start with 10 training hives every year and then we have not only we have 3 consecutive field days, 3 weeks apart. So package day, then 3 weeks later a field day, 3 weeks later field day, etc. To where we bring all of those students in to look at club hives that have just, so then we're able to work with them one-on-one at our place to, so we're not having to run all over. So that's, again, that's one of the advantages that we have. And second, then we do the same thing with our second years.
A list of activities that people do both in their club and in their apiaries. I think we could, really all of us could get a lot out of seeing a list of what the other clubs are doing as training and education things. So for mentoring, I want to summarize for mentoring, what we think would be good to have is a list of items that mentees need to bring to the mentor. So you got to recruit mentors. The mentees have to be able to ask the right question. And then we need to cover as a group, not the four of us, but unpacking it. I think we need to cover how do you communicate those expectations to the club members that you have to do before coming to a mentor. So, and that's I don't know if you do that in a meeting or how that happens.
The contract. I've seen single page contracts, and the mentee agrees, I have taken the basic class, whatever it is, beginner or apprentice, and I agree that don't expect someone to completely take care of my hive for me, and I will get back to the mentor with answers to questions promptly when I am asked. And you don't try to go out to their hive until you have, I mean, I've already learned this, that you can't do everything for them. But the problem is that the elephant in the room kind of here is that WASBA did an academic program with no hands-on requirement. So for example, John and Dawn, your apprentice plan has something required, right? They're supposed to do something hands-on to get that certificate and qualify for the next level. There is nothing until you get to journeyman in WASBA, and it's a major flaw in the program, and we can't change that. So somebody can say they took the online test for beginner and even for apprentice, and they're already eligible for journeyman after one. Well, they have to be in the third year.
Okay, so let's.
But it's a problem. We don't have what you have. You have a system. We don't have a system.
Yeah.
No, for our apprentice program, they have to attend both the classroom time and all 3 field days. They have to be there. We take roll, or you don't get your certificate. You know,
I want that. I want that now, and I don't have it.
And then on the mentors, you got to go to our you have to be a member. You have to, so you are at least apprentice level at that point, or in the apprentice program. And then to get to that area, you know, we have a paywall on our website, so the members only can go there to find their mentor, and then that list of questions is on that page when they're looking up to find a mentor. So
that would work. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Mentee rules.
We went through this last year, though. We had to have a stern talk with some of our mentors. Like if somebody calls you and you're not able to help them, you need to let them know that you're not able to help them right there, because some of these people that call in a mentor are in crisis, or at least in their mind, they're in crisis. And to be ignored at that point, it's like, oh, I'll get back to that person tomorrow. No, that's not acceptable. You need to let that person know right now that they can, if they need help right now, they need to find someone else. Otherwise, you'll contact them back at such and such a time, right? So just getting our mentors to be responsive in a timely manner, even if they're not able to help, was probably one of our biggest challenges. But I think we're over that hurdle.
Are your mentors all retired people, so they have the time to do this, or they have 9-to-5 jobs, or?
Probably 2/3 are retired, but not all. I was a mentor, but when I took over being president, I said, I'm not going to mentor anymore. I've got my plates full, right? Plus I have my own business that I run, that my busy season coincides with busy bee season. So right now I don't have time to mentor someone, so I'm off the list. But yeah, there's some people on here, and that's what we just say. Now, you know, if you're at work or something and you can't call that person back, just let them know so they can move on and find someone else.
Okay, we got to let Dawn get on to to
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Whoever gets-
so
'cause I have a half dozen questions right now.
I'll mute
actually,
myself.
this is actually really nice to do with a small group. I think just between the four of us, we're doing a great job figuring this out. And what we're going to do next month is we're going to say, okay, we decided that the first topic is mentoring, right? But then I think we'll let people do the poll again really quick. So we really do have the broad, but we got to pick the first topic because we were there. And so I like that. So our primary thing that we're looking for is recruitment and retention. And so I think that, and I think what we want to do is we want to have a panel of mentor experts. And it could maybe even just be 30 minutes. It could be half of a meeting. It wouldn't have to be really long, but I think that would really get us covered on the mentoring, and we would maybe do 15 minutes with the larger group saying, what do you want? If you had a mentor person here in front of you, what would you ask about their program? Then we'll send that off to the panel, and then the panel will be prepared for questions. So we could do something along that line. But we're also talking about the broader picture of recruitment and retention. So let's cover recruitment, because I think it's actually a much shorter topic and we can get through it. I think most people just come to us because they bought bees. Is there anything else?
I think there are people who want to become beekeepers too, though. They haven't bought bees yet. But that's mostly people who are going to take the beginning class, and I'm advising people on Facebook all the time. Well, the first thing to do is to, go to the WASBA website, find out what your local club is, join it, maybe even join the next local, join 2 clubs maybe, and then
it's $20, join them all. Yeah.
But then talk to the clubs about a mentor, and then find somebody, me or Eli, somebody who is teaching the beginning beekeeping class online, so it doesn't matter where you live, and take the class. And how do we get those? Do you think there's a problem with actually getting those folks in the door in the first place? Are we having simply recruitment issues getting enough members? And do we want to cover that as a topic? How do we advertise that we're here? I think having a website that's easy to find. I had a call this morning from a construction guy. He's building an apartment building next to the post office in Arlington. He had a swarm of bees on a sheet of plywood, and he found me on the webpage, and I went over and scraped them off and put them into a nuke. It was a secondary swarm, pretty small. I don't know, I'm guessing it had a virgin queen, but I've gotten a lot of calls, people interested in taking the class because I've got it on my webpage.
Okay, so then
let's do this as a service.
And not so much specifics, but I'm just wondering if as the entire president's group, do you think that we need to put time and effort into bumping up recruitment, or do you think people are going to be more interested in retention and the mentoring and all of that? We got a lot of mileage out of even just one topic in retention. So I'm kind of thinking as a larger group, I don't know if we need to cover that much on recruitment. I've been checking with you guys.
How about we do a survey and just list every way that they do it? I mean, like I'm saying, do a survey, just ask. And do you use a website? And if you wanted to, you could even have people rank. What's your most successful? Is it the fair booth you do every year? Is it the ad in the local newspaper? Is it your website? Is it the WASBA allows the WASBA people to put that they're doing classes and put their information? What is and just list a whole bunch of them. And if people want to indicate it, then we can cover it that way. And we may find that's all people kind of want to know.
Yep. Okay, good. Okay, so I thought that would be an easy topic, but I just want to make sure that we're kind of covering everything. So it sounds like mentoring is like one of the number one retention things. What else do we do to engage our members that we think that other clubs, that we're doing, that we think other clubs are doing, that we can find a resource to help folks do it better? And maybe this might be a larger group question, but we could start. What do you guys do that your members find exciting, they turn out for, they engage in the club. So a lot of times they engage, I find people engage in Facebook. They engage in mentoring. What are the other areas where you find a lot of engagement with the members?
That's a good question, because I have that problem. I don't have much engagement from the members. I can't even get engagement from my board.
Yeah.
I sent them an email on the 1st, what's today, the 7th, and I haven't heard from any of them yet. I actually cornered Art because he came over today, my first vice president, and asked him, and he said, yeah, we probably need to talk about that. Well, I was trying to do a board meeting through emails and nobody answered the email.
I think we need door prizes or whatever. You are in the first 5 people that show up for the board meeting, you get a free something or other. We may have to start doing
Look at
that.
this war we just caught. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have exactly the opposite problem. So
Yeah.
I have, we have the elected board, and then we have what we call the executive board, which is all the different program heads and the elected board. And I get that group together, the executive board, 3 times a year, and I'm always being bugged. When's our next meeting? When's our next meeting? When's our next meeting? So we put, that ends up being a meeting of about 18 to that meeting, and it's usually, two on site, and then I host a dinner here at the house, and we have a good time for one of them this summer. So
Yeah. So picnics or holiday gatherings, right?
no, we don't do
That's a good
holiday gatherings. We don't do.
Well, a summer picnic is kind of a summer holiday.
Oh, yeah, we do a summer picnic, yes, for the entire membership. But there again, for our meetings, we try to do our meetings are pretty well attended. We usually have about 68 to 75 on site, and then we do a hybrid meeting, and we usually have about 34, 35 on Zoom, and we do the really short business portion, and then we do a continuing ed portion, and we try to have a 2-part continuing ed. One thing that's really educational for our beginning beekeepers or apprentice program, and then something that is more of interest to beekeepers that have been there for a long time, for a longer time, so that we kind of try to hold everybody's interest. So that we can incorporate both of those. And I've had people that have been coming for 5 years, and they're going, I haven't ever come to a meeting that I didn't learn something, right? So that's what we try to do with our meetings. Yeah. That helps, engagement. Not sure it helps retention, but I still have a retention.
Well, no, engagement helps retention. So if folks are engaged in the club, then that's when they stay, when they're connecting with people, when they're learning things. So far what I have under engagement, the ways our members engage with the club is I've got Facebook, mentoring, picnic and holiday parties. And then I added in apiaries because we engage with our members hive side, and meetings. Why was I writing meeting? Oh, member meetings and speakers.
Our club's going to try one more thing. We're going to try separating out beginners and more advanced beekeepers, and so that they can both feel free to ask questions. And we're going to start a journeyman. Anybody's taking the WASBA journeyman class or higher in the fall, we're going to start that discussion group. And we've already started one for beginners, and we'll see how they take off. Because it makes it difficult to discuss something on an advanced level if you have to stop and explain the most basic concepts. On the other hand, beginners need to feel comfortable asking questions and get their questions listened to validly in a beginners group. So we're trying that in addition to the monthly meetings. And the most successful monthly meetings, we've dealt with whatever the seasonal issue is and just gotten the conversation going with a little bit of a slideshow presentation. But we feel lucky if we're getting 40 people showing up. So, I mean, we're not getting 100 people. So, but I'm feeling like, given that we're mostly online, huge area, these people cannot meet each other. Potlucks and such, are a wonderful idea. But we built by Zoom and web presence. and Facebook
Mhm.
discussion groups. So we're still pretty much tech. But that's the one thing, is dividing. And some people do it with the beginner's hour. But then some people deliberately don't show up till the beginner's hour is over.
Yeah. We stumbled across a thing that I found really exciting and engaging during when we were all remote and only on Zoom, and it was hard to get speakers, or at least the president at the time had a couple gaps. And also, the speakers, some of them weren't ready for Zoom. They were all traveling to speak, right? So they kind of had to adjust too. And what we wound up doing was having breakout rooms on Zoom. And because sometimes in the member meetings, it just feels like it's a one-way conversation. It's a monologue. We're teaching them. And it's actually, at least in the clubs I'm in, it's a little bit harder for them to ask questions. One of the clubs is really huge, and it's just kind of hard to ask questions. And sometimes people are shy, but you get people in a breakout room, and you can do it by topic or by experience level. And it just becomes this really great dialogue, kind of like what we're doing right now. It becomes this really great dialogue. And I found that really exciting and engaging with the members. And we'd have a panel, sometimes, and each panel person maybe the panel would talk for a little while and then go into breakout rooms. And it was pretty good.
One thing about Zoom that I've really noticed in the whole online experience is that I was in a club listening to the meetings when they did the in-person meetings. The NWDBA had pretty good attendance. I mean, especially in the spring, it was incredible. There were well over 100 people in that room every single week before COVID. But the one thing I really, really noticed, women didn't ask questions. And it's the biggest problem that I see. And I see it in the mentoring programs, which is one thing I'd really like to hear is, how many women are mentors? And I've got very experienced women, and they will not, if they're somewhat older, they just won't take it on. They won't speak up if the man's going to shut them down in 2 seconds by disagreeing with them. And Zoom became a great equalizer because women could enter something into chat and suggest it, bring up the topic, and they didn't have to walk up to the podium. They weren't sticking their necks out. So it was a tremendous equalizer, and I just found that was incredible. So again, the breakout rooms, that could be also one of the things that's happening. Yeah.
Yep. So how else do we retain people? Why do people leave? When people leave, what can we do to interrupt that cycle besides not having their bees die?
That's I have no answer for that one.
The only way to answer that, and I've one of these winters when I have some extra time, we have some lists that are old members, and you can compare those to who's not a member now and just start polling those people that are no longer here as to why they left. Maybe it's because they don't do beekeeping anymore. Maybe they went to a different club. Maybe they just didn't feel that it was worth their time after they become fairly proficient themselves. I suspect it's a combination of being out of beekeeping and then not finding the club valuable. But I don't
or
know
life
for a
change.
fact.
Yeah.
But I think those are the two reasons people leave.
I wonder how useful it would be to do that, because I agree with you. I think most of them are things that the club can't control. Their life changed. They stopped keeping bees, whatever. But I wonder how often the answer would be, I just didn't find it interesting, or there was personalities, politics, somebody, there was too much infighting or whatever was going on. But I don't think that answer would maybe come up as often, right? I think mostly people just leave for their own reasons. Huh?
And maybe nobody's willing to admit that the club politics drove them out. I know when I first joined Stanwood Camino, Andy Swanson had just left, and he no longer attended meetings because so many people were so mad at him that he decided it was best if he just stepped back, and he actually twisted Art Peterson's arm to take over as president, and he just stepped away. Now he has health issues and is not even keeping bees. but that's part of getting older. You know, there's
Yeah.
that happens to a lot of us, I'm afraid.
Well, how about the folks? So let's carve out the folks that don't have bees anymore. And I agree that the portion that did leave because of politics. So if people still have bees and they're not members, I guess what is kind of that balance of how much effort is it to go after these people and figure out why they left and retain them.
And how do we add value for them? How do we convince them that it's worth their time to pay their dues and come to the meeting?
Yeah.
That's I think the real question is, you know, sometimes they just feel they know enough and they don't realize that you never know enough about bees. That there's
exactly
so much.
That's been my challenge from the get-go.
Yeah.
Here is adding value to being a member of our club so that you stick around, so that we have a base to draw those mentors, you know, so that we have we can build a mentor list. You have to have that base of experienced beekeepers to do that with. So somehow you have to add value to them sticking around as members. That's my biggest challenge.
Yeah. So then how to add value? That's a good way to put it. Value to
the value
members.
could come along. That could kind of go into the speakers. Okay, I go to the WASBA conference, right? The annual conference, and the speakers are not ones that add value to me, to my life. In overall, there's a few, but overall, they pick for the conference speakers that add no value to my beekeeping experience. I want a beekeeper to get up and tell me how they keep bees, why they do it that way, what they might change. Did they try sidelining? Are they still sticking with it? Did they decide not to? I want to meet the beekeeper. I want hands-on help. I don't want to hear about research about industrial pesticides or something, whether the bees can, and a vaccine that's useless or whatever. I want to hear about beekeeping. And there's a lot of people could do that. We could have those speakers. And I can't change WASBA's mission statement, because their mission is not to help the small beekeeper. It isn't. I'm very frustrated with that. But we, maybe as the President's Club, could make it our mission to say, and that would really retain people, because you give up and say there's nothing left to learn when no one will teach you what you're interested in. When no one will talk to you like a real person. They have to do the PhD thing, and they're trying to get zillions of dollars for their research, which never benefits the average beekeeper. Almost never. Kelly Kulinik, she sounded really good because she sounded like she had caught on, and she's worked with hobbyists. So I'm really kind of hopeful with her. I heard an interview by Zach Lamasse, and he again was talking about stuff that impacted the beekeeper, the small scale. We're not supposed to say hobbyists because you can't get any funding for hobbyists. Somebody said that, and I said, oh, you're right. Yeah. Hobbyists you get no funding for. If it's a potential business return. So we should say small scale from now on, whenever we're trying to get any help with anything from the extension service or anybody really, if we can possibly pull that. But gee, I sent in a list, and I'm sure not a single person on my long list that I sent in to the president of WASBA was considered for the conference. And they're people who we want to hear from.
So what if as a group, I mean, we're all presidents, managers of our own clubs. We don't have to worry about WASBA. We banded together as a group, and we had like a quarterly speaker, and it wouldn't be on anybody's specific meeting night. It would be whenever the speaker was available, and we could get them booked, and it would be by Zoom. But we could have like almost everybody in Washington there. We could pay a higher fee. We might be able to get like Sammy Ramsey to come out and talk to us, or something like that through Zoom. Do you think that would be interesting to folks?
Interesting, but we have not budgeted for that in our club. So that would be something I think a year or two in advance.
It would cost so little. It would cost each club $20. If we had 10 clubs going in on a $200 fee, it would cost $20.
Is someone speaking for $200?
Well, a lot of them, all my speakers are $100 to $200. Tom Seeley is $150.
No.
So, but I think that, that's what I'm saying, with 10 clubs, we could, if we, each club kicks in, 20, $50, we could, but I don't know if price, I'm not sure if it's price, but if, like right now, you can't get Sam Ramsey and some of the other guys to talk to you because they're really busy and they don't talk to a club of 10 or 15 people. But if we had all of our clubs together and say, we've got 50 people who are, really eager to tune into this Zoom, then I think that with a wider audience, we might have more leverage with the high level speakers.
Just not on an 80-degree summer day.
Yes, I know. Right.
Yeah, it would have to be a fairly high level speaker to at least on this end, as I'm thinking about who may or may not join that. It'd have to be a pretty high level speaker to generate interest.
And that's really not what Eli's asking. I mean, she's saying she wants to talk to beekeepers, not to Randy
Right.
or
not Randy Oliver's. Yeah. So what would we bring the beekeepers in then? I'm sorry if I answered a different question than you asked, Eli. Well, so how we bring beekeepers in to talk?
First, we have to make it comfortable. We have to go back to what apparently WASBA was way back. If you read the current requirements for Master Beekeeper as they stand right now, to become Master Beekeeper through the WASBA program, you are supposed to present and be allowed to speak at a conference. They don't allow you if you're less than a PhD. We can't, I mean, I think Ted McFall got in and did Ruthie Daniels, a few people, but she had national recognition. That's why.
Yeah.
But we don't allow the people that we're really interested in to speak. And they don't speak on the topics that are really of interest to us.
So do we have members? So then there's an idea. Do we have members within our club? I mean, we've Ruthie's amazing. She, she's spoken to a lot of clubs and we've seen her speech, but do we have other folks, Eli, within our clubs that we can mine that can talk about one of their specialties, like a queen rearing specialist or a, whatever else? Maybe we mine.
Bee forage. There's a lot of people. A lot of people could speak on bee forage, or they're using a certain type of hive. First of all, we have to say we were interested in listening to them because they've been told to sit down and shut up for too long. So I tried really hard when the WASBA speaker list came out. I got on the email and on the phone and started saying, hey, I know you do. And actually the guy who helped Ellen write part of the APMA additions to the manuals when they were rewritten for 2023, that guy, he'd be wonderful. I mean, I tried to get him to sign it, but let's be honest, they're not going to ask anybody like me. They're not going to ask anybody like him. They're not going to ask because so we would have to do it. And I don't know how we would make it after you've been told, sit down and shut up. How do we do that?
Yeah.
And we've got good people. We've got great people out there.
So then I've got another question. And thank you, Eli. I don't know where to go with that.
I don't know where to go with it. I have the list of names. I have the people I want to speak.
Yeah. So
and they get a call, I can tell you right now.
So far with recruitment, we'll talk a little bit. So we've kind of, I think what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to take this together, put this together. I'm going to make a list. We want to try and have some takeaways for people. So that's the number one thing, is we have to have takeaways that people can bring back to their clubs and help make their clubs better. So the next topic is recruitment and retention. We'll touch on recruitment briefly, see if anybody feels passionately about it. I'm thinking they're all going to kind of be like us. Then retention, so far we have mentors, and we want to we want to bring in a panel of experts on mentoring, because I agree, I think that is one of the best ways that we engage with our members that we don't have covered already, because we do have a lot of speakers and things like that already. Then we can talk a little bit about Facebook and picnics and holidays. Do we want to talk about apiaries? Because I feel like apiaries is such a big topic that on the list I had, that was actually its own separate thing, was apiaries. So maybe we could say apiaries are a great spot of engagement, but that will be another topic? Or can we do it in a condensed way so we don't go down a rabbit hole?
I think it's another topic.
Yeah, youth, we all have apiaries. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have one, and it kind of went away when Andy went away. That he ended up buying all the hives, and I had a call from somebody the other day who had some of Andy's hives in his yard, and the bees died, and Andy never came by and picked up the hives, and he's asking about, well, where can I buy bees and where can I get some education on how to do this? Because he liked having bees in his yard. And he just, so, but that's kind of what happens with, you know, old beekeepers. Sometimes they just kind of fade away and, you know.
Yeah, well, I would like to hear how some of the different clubs have apiaries. I know how we do ours, and I feel like we're super fortunate with the setup that we have. But if we didn't, we've thought about a few times, like if we didn't have this setup, if we had to do something else, what would we do? And so it'd be interesting to see what the different clubs' apiaries look like.
And Don is the vice president of a club who's doing a lot with their apiary right now. Looks like today they just got a container delivered to store their equipment in, and that's Mount Baker.
I was there, and the apiary manager. So but you know, as apiary manager, but see, that's why this is a whole nother topic. Is I want to see a list of what folks are teaching. What do you do on your apiary days? You know, what are how do you? I know Dave Ledger, he can talk all about this specific structured queen rearing program that he does. They say, come on this day, we do this, out on this day, we do this, out on this day, we do this. He's really got it structured. So I think that when we get to apiaries, and then even people who don't have apiaries, it's how do you set one up? Where do you find the space? How do you buy the bees? You know, they're because I think there's probably clubs that would like to have apiaries. But it is a topic that might not hit everybody, but it interests me a lot because it's near and dear to my heart. But to what you were saying, John, so we find out if they have apiaries, because we're trying to stay on the theme of retention and how they use apiaries as a way to engage with their members, right? And how they draw members into the apiary. How do you advertise that you have an apiary and bring folks in, or what are you thinking?
And how do you manage that apiary as a teaching tool?
Yeah.
Beyond, you know, with ours, we do a great job of the apprentice program and the 10 hives that we go from package through first year, and then we do a second year with them. And after that, we have a couple of sites that all of our hives get trucked to, and we kind of lose them as a teaching tool. So it'd be interesting for me to hear how other clubs use their, established apiaries as teaching tools.
So maybe we touch on it, but knowing that this will be a deep dive. I mean, people immediately, I think we'll get a lot of engagement on the topic, but then say, okay, this is a topic we're just going to talk about in a really limited way, only with the theme of how you use your apiary to engage with your members to promote retention. And that's also where you get your more experienced members are more interested to come out and maybe learn a little bit more, work with the more advanced mentors. So that we'll try and keep it to that. And then we'll have a whole nother subject on apiaries, which I think we'll have a lot of discussion too.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you guys think? We're pretty close. We've been about an hour, almost an hour and a half. Just kind of wrapping it up. I'll codify these notes and send them out. So at the next meeting, we will do a quick vote again, so people are really familiar with the topics that we were hoping to unpack, and let them know that we got to pick, and we picked recruitment and retention, and then come up with this list, and I'll send this list that we came up with again out with the agenda. So here's the things that we want to talk about this month and add some things to it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and bring in some folks that can talk to us a little bit about what they're experts in. So I really like the idea of bringing in, polling our clubs and bringing in our mentoring experts who have not just good mentors, but a mentoring program. I really, John, we might be leaning on you and David, and this one we'll find out who else feels like mentoring is one of the things that is their strong points. What else in recruitment and retention can we bring experts in, even if they're our own homegrown experts? Facebook, maybe? Do we have some folks who do Facebook really well?
We're getting better, but I wouldn't say we do it well.
Yeah, we're doing it differently. You know, it's free. It's not a closely, you must agree with the way the leaders of the club say it must be done. It's much more open discussion.
Yeah. Our Facebook page is the same name as our association. So we want to make sure that when people ask advice on our Facebook page, it has our name on it, you know, so it needs to be good information. Yeah. But that's not to say that anybody else, you know, there's a lot of Facebook pages out there that are a lot more freeform than ours.
Yeah. And again, this has overlap with education and club outreach, right? Because it's also, we do a lot of education through Facebook also. So again, there's an overlap there, but we have the potential to poll the clubs for Facebook experts. We could say Facebook newsletter experts, right? Mentoring experts and apiary experts, all within the category of engaging and retaining members. Does that sound like a good foundation?
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Okay, this was very productive. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Okay, now go get some sunshine.
There's still some over there, but not much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. You guys.
Thank you, Don. Thank you.
Okay.
See you
All
later.
right. Bye-bye.